Claire Davis for Mental Health Chats, and today I'm very pleased to introduce you to Declan McGann. Hello Declan, how are you?
I'm all right, thank you. Happy to be here, happy to help out.
Thank you very much for joining us. And Declan is a mental health nurse who has worked in crisis teams. So Declan, would you like to tell us a little bit about what you do as a mental health nurse in the crisis teams?
I suppose what I do is, I suppose it's important to start off that I've had about 10 years experience working within the mental health system in varying different kind of areas within the mental health system. But working in the crisis team, certainly I was exposed to a lot of depression and people who have attempted to complete suicide. So supporting these individuals is very, very important and quite passionate about. And actually it's been quite eye-opening as to how frequent and common it can be for many people from varying different kind of professions, so like all walks of life. You know, it doesn't just, you know, it's not if you have money problems, or if you kind of being bullied or something like that. It's actually it happens to all walks of life.
Yeah, it's interesting. So we're continuing the topic of suicide, and last time we spoke with 𝗁𝗵𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 about what do we do if we're there and somebody's trying to complete their life. So what Declan's going to open up the conversation for today is for those people who have attempted suicide and not succeeded, how can we actually support them? So Declan, you've obviously worked with a lot of people in these situations with their families and their friends as well to help them on that road to recovery. So what are some insights on how we could support people who have tried to take their lives and they haven't succeeded?
If the individual has clinical features of depression, so they're not sleeping, they're not eating, they're not looking after their personal hygiene, they're socially isolating, you know, all these features are very common and very much associated with depression. I would say if these aren't being managed very well, and actually you're losing a significant amount of weight, you're really not sleeping, or you are oversleeping, you know, I would say first point of call is GP. You need to talk to your GP. You need to potentially have that discussion about starting medication, because medication, there's a place for it. You know, I wouldn't necessarily be dependent on the individual. I wouldn't necessarily say it's the first point of call all of the time. I think sometimes people can access a counsellor and do the psychological element first, and actually that will be enough. But when it comes to people who are in crisis, who have just attempted to complete suicide, I think actually starting medication is probably the most important thing you should do.
Okay, yep. And so that's going to your GP. And how else can we support them? Not just going to the GP. So going to this GP is not going to be a quick fix. We've still got to live with these people and help these people through their recovery. So how else can we support them?
Yeah, and I think focusing on support networks. So, you know, that'd be family and friends, talking about the experience, talking about the individual's experience, opening up and being quite transparent and quite I suppose it's such a unique journey for the individual. Recovery is going to be up and down. It's not going to be, it certainly won't be smooth, but it will be transitional over time. And what is quite important with kind of supporting someone with depression is having that conversation, trying to kind of destigmatize the experience of depression. I think, you know, half of the population of the UK, you know, have got kind of low mood or depression. I think it's quite a common feature. I think people sometimes can shy away from having conversations about depression because, you know, they don't feel well informed. They may have had experiences themselves and not necessarily want to go into the depths of depression, because they may be faced with, oh, you know, I was there at one point, I don't want to go back there, so maybe if I don't talk about it, I won't kind of transport back there. But that, I suppose that's not the case. It's actually, if you talk about it, if you develop support plans. So I suppose from a working perspective, it'd be a wellness action plan to discuss kind of how, if I'm not working, or if I'm feeling quite low in mood, actually how do people that you work with respond to you? And it's about communicating, and that clear communication, being open, and not holding that stigma towards depression.
That's really interesting, because if people have medical conditions, there is a care plan in place.
Yeah.
What we would probably be better doing is, at school and in the workplace and in our home environment, having a care plan in place, because emotions are up and down. So if people have felt so low that they want to take their life, we don't want to get them back down to that level. And we want them to, if they may get down, we want to be able to, what can we do in a care plan to help them get on a road to recovery, be back on that road to recovery.
Yeah, and actually by doing that, you're able to identify the early warning signs, or the potential triggers along the way. So I suppose at some point, when the clinical features are managed by medication, then the psychological kind of stuff can start. So it would be kind of engaging with the counsellor and actually discussing how you got to that point. That's really important. The reflective side is really important. I know it's very, I suppose it's really normal that something quite traumatic you want to avoid. You know, evidence suggests that, you know, with trauma, you don't necessarily avoid the situation again, because that can make it worse. So actually, you reflect and you work out how you got from there to attempting your life to where you are now. And actually, you try and reflect and learn, and how can I prevent that from happening in the future? And therefore, you're responding and you're building resilience, having gone through that experience. So you're stronger for it. So it's a transformation of experience. So you can turn it into a positive. It can be turned into a positive, but you have to, I suppose it's having the right support around you, having the confidence in yourself, and actually trusting yourself again, which is quite hard.
That's amazing advice, actually, Declan. And it's all about building resilience and building that person's resilience, and spotting the signs and understanding when people are feeling low, and bringing everyone into that conversation and into the recovery. Because if everybody's involved, everybody around this person, in the workplace, in the home environment, as well as with friends, the road to recovery is going to be much easier, isn't it?
Yeah, and people have slight blips, let's say, where they're going up and then they come back down a little bit. But it's important to have people around them when they go back down. To say, this is just a blip. You know, you're not back where you were. You're not becoming unwell again. It's a blip. Because the amount of times that I've worked with people who have experienced kind of low mood and then gone back slightly, they think, I'm going to have a full-blown relapse, and then the anxiousness starts kind of creeping in, and it kind of amplifies the situation. So having that safe sounding board to bounce back, that actually, no, this is part of your recovery. This is part of the transition. You don't expect to just go all the way up. You know, if you're recovering well, as you should be, you're going to expect the blip, a normal part of the transition.
That is absolutely brilliant advice. So what we need to do is understand that opening up the conversation with this person, not hiding the fact that they tried to take their life, because if we don't talk about it, it's almost like this big taboo. Brush it under the carpet. That's what we used to do back in the 80s and the 70s, not brushing it under the carpet, and, you know, realizing that we need to help this person and let this person know that we are there to support them.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
And that, I absolutely love your advice there. So thank you very much, Declan. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I don't know whether everybody is aware, but low mood tends to be past-based, and anxious or anxiety tends to be future-based. So
Right.
actually, if you're talking to an individual and what they're talking about is quite important. So if their time frame is they're talking about things in the past, it would be low mood potentially related. If they're worried about things happening or haven't happened yet, then actually they're feeling more anxious. So sometimes splitting up the two experiences is quite important, but they often are intertwined. So having that little bit of kind of knowledge is helpful in determining kind of where their mind is at.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. So Declan has continued the conversation of suicide, so thank you for that. And we need to open up these conversations. We need to help people. We need to get those statistics down. At the moment, there are 15 suicides a day in the UK. Actually, that was pre-COVID, maybe different now. That's more than road fatalities. So let's open up those conversations. Let's talk to people and let them understand we're there to help. So thank you, Declan. You've given us some really insightful information there. And next time, Benny's back. Benny's going to bring together all of the suicide, and we're going to talk a bit more about facts and interesting information about suicide so that we can open those conversations and let people know we're there to support. So thank you very much, Declan.
That's right. Pleasure. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.